Would everyone please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Tonight's invocation is being offered by Minister Joshua Diggs of the Antioch Church of Christ. He is the guest of Councilman Jim Hodge.
I apologize. Looks like he got caught in traffic. No. Would you join me in prayer, please? Our Father in heaven, we acknowledge you as our Creator, Supreme Being in our world and in our universe. We welcome your Holy Spirit to our gathering tonight. Pray that you will influence us for good, that we can have productive sessions, conversation, and discussion, and that our words and our deeds will honor you not only tonight, but all the days of our lives. With these things we ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of the November 16th meeting? We have a motion and a second. Councilman Dominy.
Vice Mayor, I asked that we include the roll call vote on the tabling motion on BL 2010-770 in the minutes.
Is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Without objection, the minutes stand approved as amended.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
No, ma'am, there are not.
Thank you. We have two presentations this evening. Councilman Toller.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. This, if anyone would like to stand on this, this is a resolution, a century of transforming Tennessee by celebrating the 100th anniversary of the UT Extension and Tennessee 4-H. Whereas the first part-time agriculture agent hired in 6 Tennessee counties in 1910 to do demonstration work, even before enacted by the Smith-Lever Act during the time when farm families were struggling to survive and U.S. economics began to transition from agriculture to industrial. I'd like to ask George to come up this time. Whereas Smith-Lever Act was passed in 1914 and under its provisions, University of Tennessee College of Agriculture and the U.S. Department of Agriculture organized the Tennessee Division of Extension and Tennessee General Assembly, authorizing the University of Tennessee to conduct agriculture extensions in 1915. Whereas during World War II, Tennessee 4-H members turned their attention from individual service projects to war food projections, bond sales, and other wartime activities, and surpassed the goals of each member producing enough food to support one service member. 4-H members invested their personal savings of $300,000 worth of war bonds, so significant were contributions of Tennessee 4-H members that in 1944 the U.S. Maritime Commission granted Tennessee 4-H the honor. Whereas teaching and maintaining education program, people who lived in poverty became focused on UT extensions, family and consumer science programs, and expanded food and nutrition education programs and Tennessee Nutrition Consumer Education Programs, Tennessee, which still today delivers education through locally based professional extensions, professions and programs assisted teaching nutrition, food preparation, and food safety, as well as the importance of physical and activity and health. Whereas UT Extension has addressed issues through on by the economic crisis by developing strategies for managing stress, extension, specialty, and agents. Take practical steps. Families facing financial crisis need to take and reduce spending, manage credit, and make lifestyle adjustments to new economic realities. Extension identities local support for helping families and engaging families in transforming to more secure and sustained and health approach to living in changing times. Whereas UT Extension, Davidson County, has been in partnership with Davidson County government since the early 1930s, providing researching-based programming, agriculture, family, consumer science, community resource development, and 4-H youth development to the communities and citizens of Davidson County, and will continue to address the needs of the county, these changing times today and in the future. Whereas it is fitting and proper that Metropolitan Council recognize the 100th anniversary of UT Extension and Tennessee 4-H and wish them continued success in the future. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Section 1, the Metropolitan County Council hereby goes on record recognizing a century of transforming Tennessee by celebrating the 100th anniversary of UT Extension and Tennessee 4-H. Section 2, the Metropolitan Council Office is directed to prepare copy of this resolution to be prepared by Mr. George M. Kilgore. Section 3, the resolution shall take effect from and after this adoption, and welfare of the Metropolitan Government in Nashville and Davidson County requiring it. Sponsored by Parker Toller and signed by Vice Mayor Diane Neighbors. And George Kilgore is here. And George, would you like to say something on this time?
I'll be very brief with my comments. Again, we say thank you for your support for the Extension Service for the University of Tennessee, also Tennessee State University. We thank you for the continuing support of this council, and for the people of Davidson County, we say thank you again for that 100 years of support for our agricultural programs and the 4-H programs of Tennessee. Thank you so much.
Councilman Matthews, you have the next presentation.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Tonight, I'm proud to stand before you tonight as we recognize the North Nashville Flood Relief Group and volunteers that assisted the North Nashville area during the May 2nd, 2010 flood disaster. I'm going to ask now that everyone that is here to be recognized, please stand. If you could come forward, if you're in the back, and Council Lady Erica Gilmore is going to read our resolution tonight.
Whereas giving one's time, talents, and resources to help others in a time of crisis has been an integral part of our American heritage. And during Nashville's recent flooding catastrophe, we continue this great tradition of people coming together to help during our community's most critical hour. And whereas thousands of individuals offered their help with various endeavors without expectation of any personal remuneration or recognition other than the satisfaction of knowing they helped others during their time of need. And whereas the untiring work and dedication of volunteers like Harriet Vaughn, Laquita Summey, Ruby Baker, Bino Wallace, Avery Patton, and the Dirty Dozen, Steve Roach, Damian Dorr, Pastor Tucker, Alexis Smith, Pastor Harold Love, Pastor Darrell Drumwright, Bishop Maynard, Pastor Roderick Glatt, Bishop Walker, Sam Kirk, Kennard Libero, Scott Wallace, Omarion Lee, Kim Vaughn, Kim Gold, Janine Davis, the Knowles family, Jim Graves, Ken Jakes, the Untouchables were certainly appreciated. Too often goes without adequate recognition of the valuable contribution that is made. And whereas these individuals helped lead the relief recovery effort in North Nashville from day one by setting up relief stations on West Hamilton Avenue, Crouch Drive, and LaGrange Drive, opening makeshift disaster shelters at St. Paul AME Church and Temple Church that ultimately provided food, clothing, medical care, and shelter to over 500 misplaced individuals and families, and served as a rallying point that people used to drop off food, water, clothing that was distributed throughout the North Nashville community. And I'm going to let Councilman Matthews take over.
And whereas North Nashville's Beach Creek Missionary Baptist Church was one of the first institutions in Nashville to offer its facilities to be used as an official shelter, where literally thousands of flood victims were provided food, clothing, cleaning supplies, and medical care. And whereas Cathedral Praise Church, Mount Zion Baptist Church, Mount Gilead Missionary Baptist Church, and numerous other faith-based congregations all provided food, relief supplies, and volunteers to help victims and restore the North Nashville community. Whereas the Youth About Business Center has served as a venue to distribute a semi-tractor trailer full of donated food, clothing, and supplies from donors in East Tennessee, the location of the Hope Floats Flood Relief Fundraiser Festival and Barbecue, and most notably has housed the recently established North Nashville Flood Relief Group throughout the summer of 2010 until now at no charge, allowing this organization to continue to assist flood survivors in the recovery process. And whereas volunteers are exemplified by individuals such as these, and although the efforts of many are recognized and honored here, our observation is not intended to ignore the efforts of those who worked without recognition, acclaim, or accolades. Our recognition of these people's specific efforts extends beyond them, and thus is also symbolic, therefore, of the efforts of countless thousands of who gave and continue to give tirelessly of themselves in the aftermath of the recent flood. And whereas their spirit and volunteerism, remarkable compassion and self-sacrifice is a tribute to Nashville and has helped ensure the recovery and revitalization of their community, and whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council recognizes the many selfless volunteers not only throughout North Nashville but the entire city of Nashville who truly gave those in need a helping hand. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Section 1, the Metropolitan Council hereby goes on record as recognizing the North Nashville Flood Relief Group and volunteers that assisted North Nashville during the May 2nd, 2010 flood disaster. Section 2, this resolution shall take effect from and after its adoption, the welfare of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County requiring it, and signed by and under my hand, Councilman Lionel Matthews, Councilman at Large Jerry Maynard, Councilman Frank Harrison, Councilman Walter Hunt, Council Lady Erica Gilmore, Council Lady Edith Taylor Langster, and Council Lady Vivian Wilhoit. Please help me recognize these volunteers.
Next on our agenda.
I would ask if we could have just a couple of seconds for one of the volunteers that actually started the relief efforts in North Nashville just to say a couple of words.
Okay.
Ms. Kim Vaughn.
Hello. Thank you so much for honoring us. I just want to say that my sister Harriet and my daughter here, the day that the flood hit, she was out taking pictures for the Tennessean. And we saw a lot of damage that was that had hit that part of town that we grew up in. And I called for help everywhere, but Nashville was hit so hard, there just wasn't enough help. So I sat up at the table, went to Dollar General, bought a kiddie pool, filled it up with ice and Gatorade, And I got on Facebook, and I called a lot of my sorority members and members of the Nashville Panhandling Council to assist. And from then, people began to drop off items, and we got the relief that we needed. But although I was there and set up a table, there were other groups that were working in that area as well. So it is a group effort that a community came together to help those in need. And we are a volunteer state. We do take care of ourselves, and we don't have time to wait. So thank you.
Next on the agenda is elections and confirmations. Councilmember Birch.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. First, Rules and Confirmations deferred the appointment of Social Service Commission Mary Rolando. Next, we considered appointment for the Transportation Licensing Commission, Mr. Sam Patel. Rules recommended approval, 8-4, 0 against, and I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
That concluded our business.
Thank you, Councilman Birch. Next on the agenda is RS 2010-1415, approves an amendment to a contract between the Metro Board of Health and SciTech International LLC for operation of automobile emissions testing program. Councilmember Berry.
I'd like to defer indefinitely.
Councilman Forcom, committee report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Health and Hospitals voted to defer indefinitely, 8-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember Berry.
I move a deferral indefinitely.
Have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion on indefinite deferral, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Mr. Patel, it is my pleasure on behalf of the Metropolitan Council to say thank you for your willingness to serve our city. Thank you. Next, we will take RS 2010-1455 and BL 2010-792 together. RS 2010-1455 approves an agreement between Metro government and the State Department of Transportation pertaining to the widening and relocation of 3 ramps at the intersection of I-40 at Macquarie Lane and widening a portion of Macquarie Lane. BL 2010-792 approves a contract between 791, excuse me, approves a contract between the Department of Public Works and Nashville Biltmore LP pertaining to the widening and relocation of 3 ramps at interchange of I-40 with Macquarie Lane, as well as realignment and widening of Macquarie Lane. Councilmember Mitchell.
Committee reports.
It's been approved by all committees.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 1455 and 791 pass. RS 2010-1464 appropriates $12,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Education Enterprise Fund for the benefit of the Community Education Commission. Councilman Holloman.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Gilmore.
The committee approved 6-4 and 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Holloman.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1465 removes the members of the Metro Board of Fair Commissioners. According to Rule 44, this will be deferred 1 meeting. Next is RS 2010-1466, authorizes Metro Water Services Department to negotiate and acquire property damaged in the floods of May 1st and 2nd of 2010 for hazard mitigation. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved, 4 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1467, approves an amendment to the Safe Routes for Schools project agreement between the State Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works to construct sidewalks along Oakwood Avenue in the vicinity of Tom Joy Elementary School. Councilmember Bennett.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved, 4 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1468, approves an application for a State Transportation Enhancement Program grant to the Department of Public Works for construction of sidewalks on Harding Place from Nolensville Pike to Tampa Drive. Councilman Hodge.
Committee report.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Hodge.
Public Works approved, 4 in favor, 0 against. I move approval and a comment.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Several folks in District 30 have advocated these sidewalks for a number of years, and I must recognize Councilman Greg Atkins, who did the heavy lifting on this. Started with the first section in the Danby Drive area of Nolensville Road, but this is actually on the District 30 side. We don't know exactly whether it's going to be north or south, but this is the second step in a long-awaited project to keep people safer and walking along that section where there is no shoulder. Greg also asked me to recognize Commissioner Nicely for his efforts at TDOT, and I must recognize our Senator Henry and also Representative Janice Santani for their support in this effort. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1469 approves a state grant to Metro Government for Homeland Security Preparedness Activities. Councilmember Langster.
Public Safety voted 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Langster.
Move approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1470 approves a grant between Metro Government of Nashville and Pro-Life Equipment, LLC, for the lease of 2 pumper tankers for the Metro Fire Department. Councilmember Langster.
Public Safety voted 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Langster.
I move approval with a comment, please.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Langster.
This equipment will be leased, and the new equipment should arrive within 6 to 7 months. That was the information I was given in Public Safety Committee, and again, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1471 approves a federal grant to the Metro Police Department for a gang resistance education and training program in elementary and middle schools. Councilmember Langster.
Public Safety approved proudly 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Langster.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1472 approves a federal grant to the Metro Police Department to provide gang resistance education and training program training to police officers from across the region. Councilmember Langster.
Committee report of Public Safety is 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance greatly approved 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Langster.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1473 approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health to provide rapid HIV testing services. to at-risk individuals. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Forcum.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 5-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4, 0 against, 1 not voting. And I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Hodge.
Please record my vote as an abstention.
Okay, so noted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1474 approves a state grant to the Metro Board of Health for implementation of a project to reduce the risk of adolescent diabetes. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Forcum.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 14-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1475 approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center for the Incumbent Worker Training Program. Councilmember Berry.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel approved, 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1476 approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs and deliver services to dislocated workers. Councilmember Berry.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel approved, 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1477 approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to fund various programs and deliver services. Councilmember Berry.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel approved, 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1478 approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to cover administrative costs associated with providing programs and services to assist dislocated workers, adults, and youth facing barriers to employment. Councilmember Berry.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel approved, 7-4, 0 against.
Budget and Finance.
Approved 14-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 1478 passes. RS 2010-1479 approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to provide training opportunities for dislocated workers. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel approved, 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 1479 passes. RS 2010-1480 approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs and deliver services to prepare adults for re-entry into the labor force. Councilmember
Committee
Berry.
reports, please.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel approved, 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 1480 passes. RS 2010-1481 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the lawsuit brought by Jose Antonio Melton and Teresa Patterson Melton against Metro government for the amount of $80,000. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
You're it.
Oh, well, there you go. Budget and Finance approved 14-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Councilman Crafton?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Since we're through with resolutions, I would
We haven't finished the vote on this yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. All in favor?
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. 1481 passes. We're now at bills on introduction and first reading.
Before we do that, I wanted to ask for a 30-second point of personal privilege.
Okay.
Thank you, and didn't mean to throw you off there. For people that didn't quite understand what happened on my resolution to remove the Fair Board commissioners, had to be deferred by Rule 44, and what that simply states, and rightly so, it gives them a chance to come and address the Rules and Confirmations Committee if they would like to, and it gives them a chance to address the council if they would like to, and this will happen at the next council meeting, so I just wanted to clear that up. It had to be deferred by rule, and that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
We're now at bills on introduction and first reading. Is there a motion? Councilman Gatto.
Madam Vice Mayor, I need to pull Bill 2010-803.
Okay. Bill 2010-803 amends Title 17 of the Metro Code by changing RM9 to SP zoning for property located at Old Hickory Boulevard, unnumbered, approximately 600 feet north of Central Pike, to permit a mixture of commercial and/or medical uses, along with a possible assisted living facility and active senior living. Councilman Gatto.
Yes, ma'am. I need to ask for a suspension of the rules in order to bring a substitute ordinance forth. And the urgency is that I need to do this evening to make the January public hearing. There was one permitted use inadvertently left off the list, and one use that doesn't want to be permitted that was left on the list. And in order to get the notice requirements right for the public hearing, we need to substitute the ordinance.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilman?
I would like to move to the substitute ordinance for Bill 2010-803.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
I move the bill is substituted.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as substituted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to be counted on the record as abstaining from Bill 805, if that's up next, and give a brief explanation.
Okay, we will note that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Members of the council, you'll notice 805 has to do with the rezoning of the old Starwood Amphitheater property. I've asked Councilmember Jerry Maynard at large to sponsor this bill because I didn't want to indicate in any way that we might have a conflict of interest. As you know, we both ran for state office, and some of the people in this organization may have contributed to my campaign. But I will tell you that we have had one community meeting on it. We intend to have a few other meetings on it, and it's simply to allow the Starwood Amphitheater to go back to a scaled-down use of a music venue. At one time, Starwood Amphitheater was the pride of the South. They do not intend to go back to that type of venue, but they intend to go to a smaller venue, and I want to make sure I recuse myself to make sure that there's no appearance of a conflict of interest. And for that, I thank you, Vice Mayor.
Is there a motion for approval of all bills on first reading? A second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on Councilman Crafton.
I wanted to on this one.
Pardon me?
Already ready. I'm pushing my button to speak on his bill.
RS 2010-734 amends the Metro Code to provide for free parking at parking meters for environmentally friendly vehicles. Councilman Holloman.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Birch.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Traffic and Parking voted to approve 5-4, 1 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 8-4, 6 against.
Thank you, Councilman Holloman.
I'd like to move the substitute.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman, do you wish to say anything?
This substitute, members of the council, I hope addresses all the concerns that we have heard in our 3 trips to the Budget and Finance Committee and concerns that were raised initially with the Traffic and Parking Commission when we agreed voluntarily to submit the bill to that body. Essentially what the substitute does is reduce this to a 2-year pilot program so that we can monitor the results of whether this is in fact a successful program and something that does help us as a city to go green and encourage the use of more fuel-efficient vehicles. It also increases the sticker fee for this program from $5 to $10 and allocates those funds evenly between the Public Works Department to compensate for any additional enforcement cost and the clerk's office to ensure that their administrative costs are covered as well. The substitute also limits limits the time frame and limits the parking area to the downtown area only. This was a request from the Public Works Department so that it would be easier for them to enforce on foot in a more dense area where the bulk of the meters are as well. So with that, I ask for your approval of the substitute, and we'll be happy to respond to any questions.
We have a motion and a second. There are several folks requesting to speak. Is it on the substitute? Councilman Crafton.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I appreciate the gentleman to my right's diligence. I've got a Volkswagen Jetta that gets 40 miles to the gallon. It's a diesel. Do I need to abstain if I were considering on voting for this?
Are you going to buy the sticker?
If I buy the sticker, I'm good? Yeah. Okay, all levity aside, I know that he's trying to do an important thing in getting our air quality better. The only problem I have with this is that you're basically giving a free pass, except for the licensing fee, to someone who probably is already at an above average income level if they can afford to buy these types of cars. I really believe that.
$8,000.
Huh?
$8,000 vehicle. A lot of people can afford $8,000.
I know the Prius is a popular car, different one. So that's my only quibble with it. You know, why can't we give a supplement to, you know, family with kids, working young families to come downtown and enjoy downtown, give them free parking? That would help the economic aspect of downtown. So it's always give and take. That's my only reservation. I appreciate the hard work. I'm still not sure how I'll vote.
Councilman Tigert, do you wish to speak on the substitute? Councilman Craddock? Councilman Mitchell? Councilman Claiborne? Councilman Foster? Okay. All in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Councilman Holloman.
We've had a lot of discussion in the committee, so I'm going to move approval and ask that I be recognized to address questions if they come about.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Councilman Tigert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a lot of discussion in Budget and Finance and a split vote, and I'm not going to reiterate the major concern concerning enforcement. I do appreciate Billy Lynch getting back with me. I did ask a question that had not been answered on our original sheet, and it had to do with one of the cheaper vehicles on the list. I asked him to check the cities that had this program and how many Ford Focus were registered. And sometimes I don't know when Mr. Lynch, who's a very good friend, is kidding or not, but when he reported to me that the one city they were able to get an answer from, the answer was one cheaper vehicle, a Ford Focus. So that sort of goes to Councilman Crafton. I just wanted to explain a bill that I'm going to be introducing, which I consider a companion to this. But basically, Salt Lake City, New Haven, Connecticut, Fresno, California, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Austin, Texas, are all incenting fuel efficiency. Drivers whose vehicles get 50 miles per gallon or more, have low emissions, purchase carbon offsets, and are powered by an alternative fuel source have the opportunity to get free metered parking in those cities. I will be introducing a bill 2 weeks from now that would propose free meter parking for any individuals who provide a certificate of the carbon offset of their vehicle. The offset must be through a not-for-profit organization and a local carbon offset. This is in total support of the recommendations of the Mayor's Green Ribbon Committee report and its goal to reduce greenhouse gases to 2005 levels by the year 2012. Per the report, Metro Nashville shall create a carbon offset program to fund specified local green projects designed to offset greenhouse gases and to help the city in reaching its emission reduction goals.
Councilman, are you speaking on Councilman Holloman's?
I'm absolutely speaking on this bill. Certainly things as tree planting and wetland reservations or restrictions would be included. The currently proposed legislation limits the majority of qualified participants based upon personal wealth, according to these other cities, by allowing all owners of vehicles to qualify for emission reduction incentives such as free parking through carbon offsets that not only encourages the reduction of greenhouse gases faster on a broader local level, but creates the need for funding mechanism for a local carbon offset program, as well as a huge educational opportunity for the citizens of this city. I just wanted to explain that there is a way to provide free parking for citizens of all means through the Green Ribbon Report, and that alternative will be coming in 2 weeks.
Councilman Craddock, welcome back.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I forgot what I was going to say. Holy moly, I didn't know he could read like that. I'm going to vote for this bill. And you know what? I'm probably the first member of this body that said that this was elitism. And it probably is. But in the last 2 months, I have come to learn that there are different levels of elitism, such as the administration wanting to take the fairgrounds and the racetrack away from the people in this city. That's elitism.
Order, please.
That's elitism in its purest form. And so if you compare this to that, this pales in comparison. So it does have a sunset provision. I know my good friends, Councilman Jamison, Councilman Holloman, have worked extremely hard to make this right. So I'm going to honor them by voting for it.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to ask Councilman Holloman a question. Councilman Holloman, has any other councilman brought forth any ideas to better your bill that you rejected?
I believe, to the best of my recollection, that all amendments that have been directed towards me have been incorporated into the bill.
All right, thank you. So I appreciate your hard work and doing this tonight. I'm not on finance. I've been to 2 finance meetings listening to him present a bill to this body that's a good thing. You know, it can be called elitism or whatever, but, you know, I've owned a Ford Focus before, so I don't think they're that expensive of a car. I think a lot of Nashvillians do own Ford Focuses, and there's other cars I think less expensive than that are on this list. But at the end of the day, this is just to incentivize people to keep our air clean in this city, as well as to keep us in the EPA attainment standards. And earlier tonight, I went to another committee where we're talking about emissions testing within our city, and I saw some of the same opponents of Councilman Holloman's bill. You know, they've got a better way of do emission testing, but, you know, if someone gets caught, you know, that's polluting our air, we don't want to call them out and fine them for polluting our air. You know, we don't want to do that at all. We don't want to incentivize them to have clean air, but we want to make sure, you know, we don't penalize anybody either, but we've got all these new ideas of how to do better emissions testing. At the end of the day, that's going to cost Nashvillians more money, but they're opposing this gentleman's bill. But I think we figured out tonight why some of them are opposing this gentleman's bill. They just got a bill of their own. So with that being said, I ask you to support the gentleman who's worked very hard in passing his bill tonight. Thank you.
Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I'm going to vote against this bill, and I want to explain why. My congratulations to the sponsors of this. They have worked very hard. I've attended the budget committees, the public works committees, and listened to all the discussions, and they have answered all the questions with the exception of one. If this bill was proposing to give free parking to the vehicles that are included in this ordinance, then I could probably support it. But this bill has not addressed the issue of how it will be enforced. Their parking meters are involved, include meters with 60-minute time limits and 90-minute time limits. And the only offer of enforcement is that the tires can be chalked and the time recorded, and when the meter patrol comes back around, if it's still there, then they can cite the vehicle. There is no way that we can determine when these vehicles pull up to these meters, other than if an officer happened to see it pull up at the time it parked. There's no way to enforce this ordinance. According to the Traffic and Parking Commission's analysis of this, they concluded that the ordinance would likely result in illegal parking all day, similar to the legal handicapped parking allowance. And they further found that public works enforcement activities would rise in complexity and resource requirements. And it's been stated in the discussion that if it warrants additional personnel, then they can be hired. If we're hiring additional personnel in public works, we need to be hiring additional personnel to deal with trash, brush pickup and grass and all the other issues that we have to deal with in our districts that public works has the responsibility to. I cannot vote for this because I don't think that it's our place. I don't think it's right for us as a body to pass a bill that requires an enforcement that there is no enforcement for. And in doing so, it puts an additional hardship on the department that's involved to react in a way that they don't have the ability to react. And so that's my objection. I don't have an objection with the intent. I think this is a noble goal, a lofty purpose that's being done here. And like I say, if this was providing free parking for these vehicles, like Councilman Tiger has suggested that he might do with a bill, I could support that. But I cannot support a bill that requires enforcement when there is no way to enforce the enforcement that's being called for. Thank you.
Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Just a couple of questions for Mr. Cooper, if I could. Something just popped into my mind. The sticker that's going to be provided to persons who purchase it, is the sticker a license? Is it something that the council can, in essence, revoke simply by passing a new ordinance to strip this one out of the code, or is it something that where there's a liberty interest in it and the council can't stop it if we find, for instance, that people are misusing it? I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't know that, I can't think of any kind of right that you would have in the sticker. I mean, the council is free to change any regulatory scheme it enacts at any time, and
so
people
if someone,
would have to comply with that.
So if someone buys the sticker and the next day
I mean, you anything like this you do at risk of government changing it in the future.
Thank you.
Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Councilman Claiborne raised a question with respect to enforcement, which I thought we had addressed at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, but apparently not to his satisfaction, or perhaps Councilman Tiger got in the way and started explaining some other bill and there was some confusion. But to the extent we need to repeat that, the enforcement provision today, right now, is that when you pull up to a meter and pay $1.50 and park for an hour. When that hour expires, you're not supposed to come out and feed more quarters and stay there. The point is turnover. You're supposed to leave the minute your time expires. How do we enforce that today? We enforce that today with the tired chalk mark. And that's the enforcement provision for this. It's the same enforcement provision that we've had for years that nobody's ever raised any questions about, and it simply perpetuates that. If there is any concern, remote concern by this body as to whether or not the officers that will enforce the meters, again curtailed just to downtown, keep in mind that the initial analysis that you cited from the Traffic and Parking Commission was drafted when this was a $5 sticker. It was doubled to $10 with the proceeds split, with Public Works getting 50% of that. So that if there's the remotest concern, that was eliminated. But even at $5, the projections were, if you took the 6% of vehicles potentially that qualify under the EPA standards to park under this program and had 100% of those 6% parked downtown, free at a meter, we'd lose 125,000 countywide. But the $5 sticker fee was going to bring in 175,000. So this finishes us in the black at $5, but we've doubled that to 10. There is a sunset provision at 2 years, so that if this doesn't satisfy your revenue concerns, it dies. But at any time before the 2-year expiration, if this council deems that the revenue concerns are too great, that it's not working as projected, this council can terminate it. Within 6 months, within a year, within 3 months, if it's not meeting projections. But the most distressing thing is that I think I can say on behalf of all of the sponsors that none of us anticipated this amount of a quagmire, this amount of concern. On the Green Ribbon Committee report's 72 recommendations, this is low on the low-hanging fruit scale. This is an easy thing. This is a get-her-done-tomorrow deal. We've got far, far more ambitious standards that we've got to adhere to, or else we're going to have the federal air quality standards shoved down our throat, and they don't deal nicely. They come and assess fines. And I think it's far more important that rather than pay penalties, we encourage and incentivize people, and that we encourage ourselves to do indeed be the greenest city in the Southeast. Thank you.
Councilman Holland?
Previous question.
Have a motion and a second on previous question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Previous question passes. All in favor of 2010-734, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes. Next is BL 2010-792, approves 3 lease agreements between Metro Government and Hickory Hollow Mall Limited Partnership and Hickory Hollow SB LLC for the lease of space in the Hickory Hollow Mall. Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilmember Berry.
At the request of the sponsor, we voted to withdraw the bill, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Wilhoit.
At the request of the sponsor, we voted to withdraw 4-4 and 0 against.
Councilman Forcom.
Yes, Health and Hospitals, at the request of the sponsor, voted to withdraw 8-4, 0 against.
Councilman Maynard.
Parks and Recreation voted to motion to withdraw 7-4-0 against.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning, at the request of the sponsor, voted to withdraw 9-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If it's appropriate, I'd like to offer a rationale as to the withdrawal.
Motion, please.
I make a motion to withdraw.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My neighbors in the Antioch, Hickory Hollow area are saddened to hear of the news that we've had to withdraw Bill 792. But I want to tell you tonight that this is no surrender of our efforts in our fight. The reason we're withdrawn, we'll get a full explanation of that. But I have you to know that the council members of the Hickory Hollow area, all 5 of us on this back row, is very much engaged into what's going on in our community. And we do apologize of the quagmire between the flare issues and Hickory Hollow being mixed in. We promise to bring us a clean lease and a clean provision back to this council. Mr. Reben, if you will, help us out. Bill 792 has been withdrawn.
What is the necessity and what is the city's commitment towards the revitalization of this Hickory Hollow area?
Yes, Councilman. I think as we talked about last night at committee, we thought the best course was to withdraw this bill to start fresh with a clean lease for the lease of the facilities that will house the community center and the library, those other public functions. We intend to proceed forward with that lease and file it for a January filing with the council.
Yes, sir. What is the commitment on behalf of the administration in terms of using the money that were appropriated in the capital spending plan and the capital budget for this area? Is that commitment as strong as it was on the day that the mayor introduced it at the State of the Metro?
I think that's fair to say, Councilman. We fully intend to provide those services that we just discussed as soon as possible, and we'll start the process with a new lease for that facility in January.
Thank you. Members of the council, members of the audience, I'll let you know that we, the people of Antioch and Cane Ridge, Tusculum, and Priest Lake, we have strong resilience. We've been through a lot trying to get this area revitalized. It is our full intent to make sure that this Antioch area is revitalized in a spirit of compromise and growth that we plan. We've gone through a lot of meetings with the community. We intend to go through more meetings. All of the services that have been described for our area will come our way. We're only taking a step back tonight to renegotiate the leases with CBL, to bring leases that are valid and enforceable so we won't have the quagmire that we may have had if these leases would have gone forward. But I want to be clear, we're not surrendering our fight in Antioch. We know exactly what it takes to revitalize this area, and we're going to get it done. That's our promise from all of the members in this Cane Ridge, Tusculum, and Priest Lake and Antioch area. Having said that, I renew my motion for withdrawal.
Is there any discussion on the motion to withdraw? Councilman Toller?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I just wanted to relinquish my time to Sam in case he needed it. He did not. Thanks.
Councilmember Wilhoit?
Yes, Vice Mayor, I just want to stand for clarification, as we just heard from Mr. Riebling, that there is going to be a filing in January. I think I heard Mr. Riebling saying that when he comes back with the legislation. Am I correct on that, Mr. Riebling? Okay. With that being said, as you know, council members, there have been a notice that there is going to be a joint public hearing in January. And my understanding, and Councilman Berry can help me with this, is that the public hearing is going to be on two pending bills. And those bills are BO 2010-770 and one bill that has yet not been numbered because it was filed on last Wednesday by Council Lady Moore. So we want to make it clear that the public hearing is not going to be on the forthcoming legislation that's going to be filed by Mr. Riebling. Just to make that clear, because the letter did not indicate which bill. We just want to clear that up.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion on the motion to withdraw? Okay. All in favor of the motion to withdraw, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion to withdraw passes. BL 2010-793 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the fine and penalty provisions for the violation of Metro ordinances and regulations. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Birch.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Traffic and Parking voted to approve 6-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 12-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-794 amends the Metro Code pertaining to low-impact development practices, no adverse impact design, and associated incentives. Councilman Jernigan.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved, 5 in favor, 0 against. And if I may, I'd like to commend Councilman Jernigan for bringing in not only the Metro departments, but those folks, the home builders and developers on this, and getting their input.
Thank you. Councilman Jernigan.
I believe I have an amendment to move. It's actually substitute. it's a housekeeping, I believe.
Substitute,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
Housekeeping substitute.
Yeah, move approval.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Councilman Jernigan.
I'd like to move the substitute bill with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
In June, I introduced a bill that was pretty extreme, pretty strong, I would say. And while it may have been a little misguided, my heart was there for what it intended to do. The byproduct was getting a lot of people in the room together, so that was a good thing. So once we got all the people in the room, we listened to what they had to say. And we incorporated ideas. We incorporated their thoughts, their feelings, and we moved forward with a bill that everyone could be proud of. This bill does ban building in floodways. It does low adverse impact to protect the surrounding areas, and creates a stakeholder committee that will give us something firm by August of next year before our council session ends. So what we did is we took the policymakers out and we put the engineers in. That's probably the right thing to do. With that, I ask for approval. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as substituted. Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to commend Councilman Jernigan for all of his hard work on this and also take an opportunity to wish him a happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Happy birthday, Councilman. Next is 2010-795, accepts a contribution in an amount of $200,000 from the Parks Companies, Inc. for traffic calming and beautification projects in the Annex Avenue and the Hillwood neighborhoods. Councilman Holloman.
Move approval. Do it. I thought Councilman Baker was. Are you going to handle it?
Who?
Is it deferral?
I am so sorry, Councilman Baker.
Committee report, please.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to defer one meeting at the request of the sponsor, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works voted to defer 4-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Baker.
Move to defer one meeting.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of a one meeting deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-796 approves an agreement between Metro Government and the CCBCC Operations LL regarding Recycle and Win Recycling Promotional Program. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works voted to approve, 4 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve, 14-4, 0 against. I understand that it's also Councilmember Hodge's birthday, so I move approval.
Happy birthday. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-797 authorizes the Metro Government to enter into participation agreement with Rogers Group, Inc. for the construction of the Basswood and Cockrell Bend trunk sewer line relocation. Councilmember Baker.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works voted to approve, 4 in favor, 0 against, and it's also Pearl Harbor Day.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Baker.
Move approval.
Have a motion, and I think there's a housekeeping substitute we need to move first. There's a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Councilman Baker.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the bill as substituted, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-778 changes 17.98 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 7022 Nolensville Pike, Nolensville Pike unnumbered, and Burkett Road unnumbered at the southeast corner of Nolensville Pike and Burkett Road to permit commercial uses. Councilman Toller.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I have an amendment on this bill that's quite lengthy, and I'd like to ask Mr. Cooper to make comments on that, and then I'd like to move approval and speak after that.
I will not read the amendment. It incorporates the Town of Nolensville's design review standards as conditions into the bill. It actually spells out what those are. It's included as an attachment. And it also includes a number of other conditions pertaining to neighborhood associations and landscaping buffers. That's pretty much it. It's 3 different landscaping buffers.
Councilman Toller.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to move the amendment.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilman Toller.
Okay. Then I'd like to move the bill as amended and then make a comment, please.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to compliment the Regency Development Company that started this project some few years ago, and part of it being in Williamson County and part being in Davidson County. And after many, many meetings with the neighbors in the area that back up to this development, they made many commitments, and those are included in this SP zoning of all the buffering that is to the back of the neighbors, the parapet walls on the rear of the buildings so that folks will not see the air conditioning and heating units, and the condition of the design being similar or exactly like that of the community of Nolensville. And so this took quite a time, and we've worked on this probably for about 3 years. But now it came to pass, and at the public hearing we had everyone satisfied. Thank you, and I'd like to move for approval.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-784 amends the Metro Code to provide for relocation of non-conforming uses. Councilman Holland.
Vice Mayor, I promise to not make this a habit, but I move to the next meeting in December, the 21st.
We have a motion and a second for a 1-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. 1-meeting deferral passes. BL 2010-787 approves a vacant property exchange between Metro Development and Housing Agency and the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation to acquire land for recreational use. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If all committee reports are in, I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-788 amends the Metro Code to provide a discount for development permit fees for workforce housing developments. Councilman Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to thank all the co-sponsors who sponsored this bill, and I'd like to move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Hodge.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to recommend to the sponsor that he defer this and re-refer it back to the committee. And doing some research on this, I find that the Home Builders Association was not invited in on this, nor was the Realtor Association. There is a penalty involved in this. If a builder builds a house, sells it to someone who qualifies, and that person turns around and sells it to someone who doesn't qualify, then that builder who didn't collect on a higher price can be penalized by us for that 25% reduction plus 10%. As a realtor, it's reminiscent to me somewhat of the old THDA loans we had. And when the market changed in the RTC days, and suddenly that owner, because of deed restrictions, could not sell his home that he had outgrown. He was forced to stay there. He could not rent it because of deed restrictions. Now, many folks violated those restrictions. And this is a situation where I think we haven't had all the players at the table. And I apologize, I was not able to be at the first committee meeting. So I'm going to recommend that to the sponsor, that he consider that, defer it, and re-refer it back to the committee, and get these other players at the table.
Councilman Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would have given consideration to the request by Councilman Hodge, have he given me the courtesy of telling me this information before now. My email and my phone number is all public record, and if Councilman Hodge had information concerning this particular bill, he could have called me, emailed me, talked to John or anyone, and then sent me information about that. So I'm not going to I'm not going to move for a deferral, because we do have a clause that we have to have enforcement for about 5 years, correct, Mr. Cooper? That it is for a 5-year period of time. And the reason why you do that for 5 years, because you do not want anybody to abuse this particular incentive program to utilize the discount, then turn around and sell it at market value. And what we're attempting to do is simply use this as an incentive for workforce housing throughout all Davidson County, specifically though for those persons who work near their corporations, near their small businesses, near the manufacturing sites, who work where there is transit and bus systems, so that we will incentivize those who are in the workforce housing arena to continue to do so in this economic crisis. So that's why we have this incentive plan. And so the purpose of the 5-year period of time is so that someone will not develop, use the incentive, then turn around and sell it or rent it at market value. And this is used throughout the entire nation, both federal, state, and local. So I hope that you will vote for this bill on third reading. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilman Foster, did you wish to speak? Councilman Coleman?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Cooper, I wanted to ask, you heard the grave information by Councilman Hodge, and if that's true, it somewhat exposes Metro to an extent. And of course, we've heard Councilman Maynard. What could be the compromise here? Because obviously we don't want to put ourselves in a position to approve something that could possibly expose us to liability down the road.
There's no exposure to Metro. I mean, if there was any exposure, it would be to the developer or home builder who applies for the incentive, obtains the 25% reduction, and then within 5 years the house is sold for, you know, above the capped price. So, I mean, the developer, to avoid that situation, could elect not to obtain the incentive. I mean, it's not a mandate that if you're building workforce housing, you have to use this program or seek the reduction. So, I mean, if you wanted to pay the full amount of the permit fees, then there would be no restrictions on the price point for 5 years or at any time.
But our voting yes tonight would not expose Metro. That's the bottom line.
Not in my opinion, no.
Thank you.
Councilman Craddock?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. In light of this new information, and you know what, I didn't know that, and I'm a realtor. And my gracious, over 30 years, my average sale price is much less than this. I didn't even know I'd been dealing in affordable houses all my life. I'm going to move to defer this and re-refer it to the Codes Committee.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion to defer and refer back? Councilman Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to ask that you vote no on this motion to defer. This is the third reading, and we had an opportunity to talk about this. It is not houses do not have to sell at 155. It's up to 155,000. So it could be any amount up to 155,000, and the rent up to 1,100. We did talk with those persons who are engaged in workforce housing. We did include developers on this. We did include those persons who are engaged in affordable housing. We talked to Codes, Water, all of Metro before we actually filed the bill. And then it's passed Codes, it's passed the committees, which the Vice Mayor always tells us we should bring these issues up during the committee meetings. I ask that you vote no on this because we're setting a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, if we're going to bring up issues on the floor, without communicating to the sponsors before we bring up this type of motion. Thanks.
Any other discussion on the motion to defer and re-refer? I'll go in the order we have. Councilman Holland.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and to Councilman Maynard. I believe I signed on to this bill too because I think it's very important. One thing I would hope that Councilman Hodge would do is kind of wrap the knuckles of those two industry groups for not getting here sooner to the table. However, in light of that, I don't see any harm in deferring it one more meeting, because Councilman Mayor, I think we got the votes. We'll have them tonight. We'll have them on the 21st. So I don't see any harm in supporting the deferral.
Councilman Crafton.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have talked with Councilman Maynard and Council Lady Berry and a couple others about this bill, and am generally supportive of it, and I appreciate what they're trying to do. Now, what Councilman Hodge said, I want to get this straight, because I've been following this bill, but I want to make sure I understand what he's saying, because if what he's saying is right, I'm not sure that it wouldn't be better to change that. Now, let's just take me, for example. Let's say I decide to use Councilman Maynard's program. I build a house, I take the reductions, I sell it to a qualified buyer for the correct price. They buy that house, happy with it. Let's say 3 years down the road, they sell it to someone who maybe doesn't meet the income requirements, or it's higher than that amount. Am I, the builder, going to be responsible for monitoring somebody third in line buying this house?
No, it would actually be Metro that would have the responsibility for monitoring it, because...
But would I be penalized?
First of all, there would have to be a deed restriction filed at the time that you get the thing. So you could not sell it. I mean, you wouldn't be able to obtain a loan at a higher price. I don't think a bank would give you a loan if there was a deed restriction saying that the price is capped for a period of 5 years. But to the extent that did happen, I mean, and Metro found out about it, then I assume Metro would have recourse against the entity that received the credit if that happened. But I mean, there would be several things that would have to happen before it got to that point.
Well, let me ask you this. If somebody participates in the program and they build the home and it's sold to a person that meets all the requirements at a price that meets all the requirements, if we just left it at that, would that keep deed restrictions from having to be put on it because it would be satisfied at the time of purchase? Would that be a...
Well, I mean, yes, you could do that. I think the reason that the sponsors included the deed restriction requirement was to ensure that you just didn't have people flipping the houses and making a profit.
Well, but when you flip the house to someone, they had to be in that income level to begin with. So you're not flipping it to somebody that's got means to buy 10 or 15
right.
days.
But then it would give them the opportunity to, these are all policy discussions and decisions, and the ordinance could do any or all of those. I mean, that is a possibility.
I'm just trying to think it through. I know that we're going to be bringing forward another piece of legislation. At that time, would it be possible, if we wanted to maybe change the 5-year requirement and just make it go through one seller if we want to do that later, if we pass it tonight?
Sure, yeah, this would be amendable at any time by ordinance.
Okay. So, Councilman, the sponsor, Mr. Maynard, what seems like what we determined is that if you can go two routes. You can defer it tonight, or if we pass it tonight, Mr. Maynard and other sponsors can bring something to, we can talk about it and maybe look at lowering this requirement so it doesn't pass to a third purchaser. So knowing that we can do that, and since I've been working with the sponsor, I know he's worked hard, I'm going to go ahead and support it tonight and rely on his diligence to take this up and introduce something that will help fix it if we need to.
Councilman Craddock.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You know what? I'm a supporter of this bill. I supported this bill in the Codes Committee. To my recollection, the only person in the committee that appeared before the committee was Terry Cobb to talk about this. And we had a lot of discussion back and forth with the sponsor, and I supported it. And this, you know what? I'm okay with the bill, but I want all the stakeholders to have an opportunity, whether they ask for it or not, and like Councilman Holland says, shame on them for not. But this could have some serious ramifications down the line. And what will happen, ladies and gentlemen, if all the stakeholders do not come to the table, nobody will build the houses. That's what will happen. They just won't build them. And the program won't go anywhere. Now, the real estate market is as depressed as it's been in a long, long time. There is no sense of urgency. You know, we talk about courtesy a lot in here. We talk about that. We've talked about it a lot in the last 2 months. And so I would ask the sponsor, out of courtesy, to defer this and invite the stakeholders to the table. If they don't appear, that's their problem. But you know what? If they don't have a chance, then it's our problem. If we give them that chance and they don't take it, it's their problem. And if they're dissatisfied with it, they just won't build the houses.
Councilman Gatto.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I too support this bill, but I really do believe that at least a 2-week deferral is in order. You know, it doesn't matter. We were elected to come down here and represent the people, and we were elected to try to do the best job for the city. And from the councilman from Antioch's comments, it sounded like he wasn't really aware of some of these issues that might be in this bill until now. And so I'm hoping that we will all. There's no harm in deferring this one more meeting, and like Councilman Craddock said, we've got the votes, or the votes are there to pass it, but let's make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and let's not go ahead and pass something and put it into effect thinking we can always undo it by passing another bill, because if you go ahead and put it into effect, you might get people caught up in the trap that might be there in the meantime, and I would not want to see that happen. So I'm going to support the deferral.
Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Just a quick procedural question, since I guess we're still on the motion to defer, correct? Is this bill susceptible of amendment, given the nature of the code sections? On third reading, it's not susceptible of amendment, is it?
With suspension of the rules.
With suspension of the rules, right. So sending it back down to committee, besides giving people a chance to talk, the committee could not offer any amendments that would come up in regular order, correct?
The committee could suggest amendments suggest that the council suspend the rules, but
okay. So the only way to assuredly permit amendments would be for the council to rescind passage on second, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And again, I would ask that you vote no on the motion to defer. However, if you do vote yes, I do want to clarify, there have been some terms like traps and things like that. And I want to make sure that we are voting, you vote as an informed council person. There are no traps. Basically what it states is that the deed will have on there that is a restriction, that if you qualified and approved for and took advantage of this incentive, it will be on the deed that you cannot sell this property unless the buyer also qualifies and the sale price qualifies under the guidelines of the program. So there is no trap. Metro is not exposed. And so on the deed, it will stay restricted for 5 years. And that is to keep people from flipping houses. That's to keep people from using the program and then abusing the program and not utilizing it for its intent. So there is no trap. There is no harm for any real estate agent. There's no harm for any developer who in good faith uses the program, sells the house, and then the person who buys the house qualifies, and within that 5-year plan, 5-year term, as long as they sell it to someone who qualifies, there are no traps. And there's a restricted deed. Anybody who in real estate understands you never buy or sell a house until you do a title search. I've been a lawyer for 15 years. I will say I'm not practicing now. But before, when I did practice, I did real estate. You always do a title search. The deed will show whether there's a restriction, and a bank will not loan you the money with that restriction if you violate the restriction. There's no trap here. That's a red herring. So I ask again that you vote no on the deferral. Thank you.
Councilmember Hodge.
Thank you. I've never claimed to be a prophet, but I ask you to think back 5 years, 2005. The real estate market then looked nothing like it looks today. And I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. I've seen buyers get caught in traps, not that they intended, not that the people who developed the program intended, but it happens. I think we need to take a longer and harder look at this and make sure we're not exposing our folks. Thank you.
Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to ask Ms. King a question, Metro Legal. As the legal director, do you see any exposure for Metro government in the bill in the shape it's in as of right now?
Not the version that's before you, no.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Riebling, is Metro exposed? Did you sign, did it require a finance director to sign this bill?
I did, yes. I signed.
I signed the bill. Sorry.
Okay. So you see no exposure for us at this point as legal director, finance director? Thank you.
Councilmember Wilhoit.
Yes, I heard someone say that there was a group of people that were not at the table. Who were the folks that were not, the organizations that were not at the table, not given the opportunity for input in reference to this legislation?
Councilman Hodge.
I spoke with the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors, the executive director. I also spoke with the executive director of the Middle Tennessee Home Builders Association.
Okay, I thought I heard the home builders. Is not Terry Cobbs the director or one of the presidents of the Home Builders Association? Okay, but he's on their board. Isn't that the opportunity for someone on the board who is receiving this codes information to notify his members of a legislation that could in fact impact ultimately the end user? So it seems to me that they had the opportunity. They had someone that's in direct charge of receiving the information and making sure his members be aware of what type of conflict of interest that could come before them. They had the opportunity. And although I think it's always great to have various folks at the table to provide input, but there are a number of council members who are realtors right here in this room. They saw this bill. They had the opportunity to speak. So with that being said, I'm going to support this bill. And it appears that we can come back and amend it at a later date by suspension of the rule. And being that we want to make the bill perfect, I don't think anybody's going to object to suspending the rule to make it perfect. So on third reading, you have to have suspension of the rule.
It's on third reading.
But am I correct, Mr. Cooper, that we can amend it later? Is it possible? The only dumb question is the one that's not asked. So I'm asking the question for council members that has a problem with me asking this question. Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, it can be amended by a subsequent ordinance.
All right, thank you so much. So I appreciate you supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Councilman Crafton.
Previous question.
Second. We have a motion and a second on previous inquiry. Question. Pardon me?
Parliamentary inquiry.
We need to vote on the previous question.
All right.
All in favor of previous question, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The previous question is the motion to defer and re-refer back to the committee. That is the motion that is on the floor right now. All in favor of the motion to defer and re-refer back to the committee, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. We need a machine vote. It is on the motion to defer and refer back to the committee. Councilman.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper, since I am a home builder, licensed general contractor that from time to time builds homes in this price range, do I need to abstain?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you.
We are on the motion to defer and re-refer back to committee. Has everyone voted? Madam Clerk?
Ayes 15, noes 21, 4 not voting.
The motion to defer and re-refer fails. We're bow back on the original motion. Councilman Maynard?
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Holland.
Let's get a new motion up there, Vice Mayor. I move to just defer it one meeting. Don't send it back to committee. Just defer it 2 weeks.
Can't do that. We've already voted on that. Any other discussion? Any other discussion on the motion to approve? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion passes. We're now at BL 20. Okay, sorry, we're on third reading. We do need a machine vote. I apologize. On the motion to approve. Everyone voted? Madam Clerk?
Ayes 28, noes 7, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. We're now on Bill 2010-789, amends the Metro Code to require street name changes to be submitted to the Metro Historical Commission for review prior to consideration by the Metro Council. Councilman Forcom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All committee reports in. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next is BL 2010-790, continues the current 10% user surcharge to fund the operations, capital improvements, and debt obligations of the Department of Water and Sewage Services. Councilman Hodge.
Thank you. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 790 passes. We're now at memorializing resolutions, RS 20. Sorry, Councilman.
Sorry, Vice Mayor. I need to move to suspend the rules to hear BL 2010-674 for the purpose of deferring to the March public hearing.
Okay, BL 2010-674 amends Title 17 of the Metro Code, amending the existing Green Hills Urban Design Overlay District to modify variations to the conventional standards of the underlying base zoning located along Hillsborough Pike, Hillsborough Drive, Hillsborough Circle, Hobbs Road, Warfield Drive, Richard Jones Road, Bandywood Drive, and Abbott Martin Road. Councilman McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The motion or the sense of emergency is slated for January public hearing, and we need to defer it to March for more.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to defer to the March public hearing.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of deferral to the March public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Yes, Councilman Gatto.
I want to rise to recognize Kim Craddock, Councilman Craddock's wife, and Kim Birch, Councilman Birch's wife, on the occasion of their birthday. It's their birthday today.
It's just one birthday after the other tonight. Congratulations and happy birthday. RS 2010-1482 requests the Davidson County delegation of the Tennessee General Assembly to introduce and support legislation to further limit the amount of finance charges and fees cash advance establishments can charge. Councilman Holland.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 14-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Holland.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.